And what we're hiding underneath here is a bit of an oasis. Check this out. Guten yardening, everybody. It's cold, and it's going to get really cold over the next couple of evenings. So I'm going to take you on a tour of what's still in our garden, what we have that's going to be coming out soon, and also I'm going to show you how we're going to try to protect some of these plants from the impending 23 degrees Fahrenheit evening. It's pretty, but it doesn't mean I have to like it, right? Take a close look at this kohlrabi down in here. Probably about 1.5 inches for these, so they might not have time to develop fully, but the leaves are perfectly edible and they're in great shape. Not a lot of damage here, a little bit of damage, but not a lot. So we'll be able to take advantage of what does develop in the next couple of weeks, because we're supposed to have weather in the high 60s for the next 1.5 weeks or so. And I gotta tell you, that kind of weather is perfect for these kohlrabi. And right down in here we have a cauliflower that's coming along. We got a little beetle right here we're gonna get rid of. And again, it's that time that we have left here, already in November, but still some warm days coming. We noticed this in the spring as well. These kohlrabi, the ones side by side, same variety, and vastly different bulb development. And so we're getting some that are, again, 2 inches, 1.5 to 2 inches already developed, and then some, and this one I would say is probably what, 1 inch in diameter. A lot of this damage to the kale was from about a month ago. We've had enough cold weather that the kale really hasn't fully continued to develop, and so it's kind of low to the ground right now. But you can see all this new growth in here. And again, with a week, 10 days of nice 65 to 70 degree weather, we're gonna see this starting to really sprout out and pop up. Look at this purple kale. Beautiful color. Look at that. I think this early Vienna is probably the biggest that we have in this garden spot. This is what, 2.5 inches diameter. These are nice. These are going to be tasty, and they'll develop fully enough for us to have a nice harvest. And the cool thing about broccoli is it looks like it's never going anywhere, and then all of a sudden you see the heads start to develop, and we've got a head on every single one of these broccolis. Late planting fall broccolis, early November, and we're going to have more to take inside soon. Look at this bed full of daikon radishes and turnips. The daikon radishes looking super healthy. If we look down in here, we can see they're popping up out of the ground. We're gonna leave them in a little bit longer, but they'll be able to come up soon. And look at the size of these turnips right down in here. Let's pull this back. Look at those. These are beautiful, great size, great development. Another one of those crops that's super quick and a great plant to grow as a beginning gardener and to grow successively throughout the season. We are waiting and hoping for these varieties of cauliflower to actually turn into something. We have some purple, we have some orange cauliflower. If you look in here, you can actually see some of that purple coloration on some of these. So that gives us hope that there's going to be some pretty quick development soon. We are multiple weeks into having evenings that have brought some frost, and we've been covering up our hay bale salad bar as best we can. You can definitely see some wilting here, which is not ideal, but still quite a bit of healthy lettuce on here, different varieties of lettuce, and we have been eating this almost daily. So we've been getting fresh salads all the way in late October, early November, almost daily from this one hay bale salad bar. It's hard to believe that just a few short weeks ago, this was covered in grapes. The leaves have died back completely. And this area looks almost barren, but we're hiding something. And what we're hiding underneath here is a bit of an oasis. Check this out. broccoli, cauliflower. Look at the greens in here. We had to replace the cloth with plastic because we had some crazy winds again, multiple days in a row, and that cloth just wasn't holding up. But look at how healthy everything looks underneath here. Other than to change over from the fabric to this plastic, this is the first time we've had this full bed uncovered in over a month. And you can see what the results of that covering created. Now, this is just some of our spinach, and this one didn't grow as much, but let's look next door at our spinach and see the size of these leaves, these spinach leaves. This has to be some of the biggest spinach. Look at that, way bigger than my hand. It's super green, very healthy. We got lots more spinach in here to harvest as a result of us covering that up and keeping this safe from some of those harder frosts. You can also see our strawberry spinach right underneath here has really spread out. It's a real wide spreading spinach with the smaller leaves. So we've got plenty here to harvest as well. Now, one of the challenges whenever you put something under plastic like this or cover it up, you're protecting it from most of the elements, but any insects that might have already been inside are there to stay. And the results can be a little bit challenging. And here's what I mean. Here's our purple kohlrabi. And you can see that whatever critters were in here first or initially had their way with some of these plants. So that's not so good. But you can also see the kohlrabi is starting to form for these, starting to form a little bit on some of these. And so with the plastic covering on, we're going to be able to keep this warm or warmer, and we should still see some development in the upcoming weeks. It also seems like some of these plants are more preferential to the insects than others. This one is completely decimated by the insects. But one plant that is still performing and still growing are these sugar snap peas. And you can see the blossoms. There are blossoms everywhere in here. So they like the cool weather as it is, and they clearly have lots of life left in them. Now these beets, at least the greens of these beets in this garden, are looking very healthy. At the base, well, not so much development yet, but I mean, it's coming. A couple of different varieties of beets here, as you can see. Some of the golden beets, these are the golden beets, which hopefully still have an opportunity to grow. And these are the ruby red beets. Such beautiful foliage. Let's take a close look. Look at that. Look at those colors. Excellent colors. Very nutritious. Can eat these even if we don't get that bulb at the bottom. And you can look right down in here and see some of the development of these daikon radishes. There's one of them popping out of the ground right there. But look at the greenery, free of all insect damage. Absolutely looking perfect. And again, these daikon radishes, the greens on these are edible, especially without that insect damage. And then we're gonna get whatever grows underneath the surface. So it'll be interesting to see, are these gonna perform better than the ones in the pots similarly, or how that goes. Again, another reason why we grow in multiple different locations and mediums. Now, I don't know if it's the location, like one end has a little bit more sun. This end gets a little bit more sun than the other end. But the greens on this end, the kohlrabi, are actually doing better. If you come in down here, take a look at this purple kohlrabi. Here's my hand for comparison for size, probably a couple inches. Look at how beautiful that is. Look at that coloration. And right next door, we have another of our kohlrabi varieties. Real thick right here, but not really bulbed up yet. But we alternated just a little bit so you can see purple, more purple right down in here. And back behind, this is an early Vienna right here. This early Vienna kohlrabi, looking great. Now, regardless of what wind damage happened down here at this end, if we look down the length, the expanse of this bed, where we started off with our potatoes, and now we have, what, 10, 12 different varieties of vegetables growing, we're still seeing excellent fall garden production. And we've got weeks left of this production. weeks because of that warm weather that's coming up, and also because we have this covered with the plastic. You know, there's a reason why we plant so much kale in our garden every year. We want that smoothie, that breakfast smoothie, every single morning. But we don't just want it in the spring and in the summer. We also want it in the fall and over the winter. Now, it may look like this kale is a bit sparse. As we head into here, you can see there aren't as many big leaves on here, but that's because I just did a gigantic kale harvest. And with everything that I gathered, I was able to freeze 9 gallons of chopped kale. That'll go great in our smoothies. And we still have a bunch of kale and celery. This celery's been in here for 6 months. 6-month-old celery in here, and we still have a ton that we can collect. And we have some of our parsley down here as well. So we've got the makings of many, many, many more smoothies out here still. And if we see a horrendous frost coming, like a truly terrible frost is going to kill everything off, we'll come right back out here and harvest the rest of this so that we can have even more to freeze over the winter and eat and consume daily. The healthiest smoothie that we know. Check this out. This is a broccoli from one of the heads that we had harvested earlier in the season, much earlier in the season. Little floret there that came up. We've also been eating off some of these leaves. And over here, we have some beautiful Brussels sprouts. You can see we've pulled a couple of these Brussels sprouts off. We have another one in behind there. Really nice sized sprouts on here as well. So one of my favorite vegetables to eat. And back here we still have collard greens as well. And these are another plant that we can harvest and put into our smoothies. So you can cook and eat collard greens any way you like, but look at these leaves. I mean, they've been through some really nice cold weather, so they're sweet and really, really tasty. These are some of the latest plants that we planted, so we didn't give them a ton of time, but you can see in here, these are broccoli right here. We have some cauliflower next door. This is cauliflower right here. And of course some of our cabbage. This is definitely going to form heads soon. Again, we just need time. We're up against the clock now, but these are cool weather crops. They've dealt with that, you know, -4, -5 Celsius weather, that 25, 26 degree weather that we've had in the evenings. This Swiss chard may not look like much right here, but that's because we've been eating a lot of Swiss chard. Absolutely love Swiss chard. So some more broccoli over in here, and again, regardless of how much of a broccoli head these form, regardless of that, we're going to have the opportunity to eat the greens off of here. So we're still going to get food out of this garden no matter what. This is where that planning comes in key, because we planted these carrots earlier in the season. Let's take a look. Let's see what's in here. Look at that. And they are ready to go. You know, so we're going to get more carrots, more of these fresh carrots. This is one of the things we talked about in one of our videos where we tried to experiment with planting some of our sweet potatoes late. And we were talking about how maybe the better option would have been to plant even more carrots because they last a while in the fridge, but we did plant quite a few of them. Although if you look, the rabbits really got a hold of these recently. Oh, that's painful. These are the only 2 store-bought raised beds we have. And we planted even more carrots in here. They're getting really close. The greens are nice and tall for these. Not so much here, but this was really shaded out by our sweet potatoes that were coming across here. So I think they stunted a little bit because of that. When I say we planted a lot of kohlrabi, I'm not kidding. But I think we probably should have separated this one out. They're not really bulbing up that much. But again, we'll still be tasty with what we've got. More kale, and I know people don't love kale, but one of the things I've started to do with kale lately is to chop it up really fine and then add a couple of our radishes and cook it down in a little bit of water, a little tiny bit of salt. It is outstanding. Something about the flavor of the radish with this kale is fabulous. And here's some more of our strawberry spinach, and this one actually has a little fruit on the top. And this is edible. These purple kohlrabi have been in here forever, and we are just now finally seeing some decent size coming in here. Let's put this back. It's a couple inches. So we're excited to try these because we haven't had any of our purple kohlrabi yet. But there are a couple here that are looking pretty nice. Our greatest area of fall kohlrabi success is definitely in these little containers on this side of our property. And I'll put my hand down here so you can see a size comparison. This is probably about 3 inches in diameter, and we've got nice consistent development all the way down in these pots. So these are going to be tasty, and these are going to allow us to experiment even more with some of our kohlrabi recipes, like our delicious kohlrabi ice cream. Look at the foliage on these ruby red beets. You can see the beets down below here. Didn't get all that big yet, but beet leaves are so tasty. Highly recommend these. I even like them raw. We still have quite a few plants growing out here, even though it's late November. Again, when you plant something in preparation that you know is cool weather and you're prepared for that, you can still get that growth here, even in Zone 5, Wisconsin. Check out this bok choy. We've left these daikon radishes in a container longer perhaps than we needed to, but check out the size of these daikon radishes. This one's huge. It's way down in there. I'm not harvesting it quite yet. We've got a bunch in this container alone. Again, daikon radishes, radishes in general, seem to grow anywhere and everywhere. When you plant effectively, you can end up with incredible vegetable growth late in the season, all the way through up until the winter time, when then hopefully, if you have a little space inside, you can keep the process going with some awesome indoor gardening. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give us a like, leave us a comment. Don't forget to share and subscribe. And remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.